here from the Scrappy Sisters. So I wanted to pop in and show you what I'm starting with here. So I've got the beautiful Cocoa Vanilla Studios Happiness paper. Does it have a number or something? It is So Fresh. Are they all called that? No, So Fresh. And I have really carefully cut the wreath out all in one go, just by starting off with a Stanley knife and then cutting with my scissors. And I'm going to use that, I'll probably actually trim it a little bit differently, but I'm going to use that on a separate layout. So I'm going to put that to the side. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to glue that together like that, and in a minute I'm going to get some paints. I'm just going to soften the join marks around the two circles with a bit of green paint and a bit of white paint, and just kind of dull the harshness of those lines a bit. I just really loved the navy love heart, so I didn't want to lose that. And then I have cut this gorgeous wreath from the cut shop. It's going to go on top of there. I'll back it as well, and I'll probably back it, I'm not 100% sure, but I'll probably just back it just straight, you know, nothing fancy, no pop out bits or anything like that, because I have also used the Posy flowers again. Can you see those? Still on my cut mat. I've only just finished cutting them, and these flowers I will probably do the two layers. So when you cut the whole outline of the flower and just stick it down from in the middle, so it's got a little bit of dimension and a little bit of shadow, just like I did on the cat layout. So I'm going to get started. I will show you a little bit of the process that I'm working on, but I just wanted to pop in and say good day. And yeah, I'm going to get started now with putting the pattern paper onto the green and then smooshing on the paint. So let's get going. Okay, so I am back and I've put you into fast forward mode, and I am going to get this layout happening. So I'm starting off by using some PVA glue to stick my beautiful heart paper onto the green pattern background. You might have seen me unclogging the nozzle there with my pin. I didn't even check if it was clogged. I just like to poke the pin down there just to be sure before I even get started. I thought I was really clever and put the glue all the way around the page ready to go, but I'm literally sitting over a heating duct, so it's almost dry by the time, so the start of it's almost dry by the time I get it finished. Oh gosh, does that even make sense? It's a circle. By the time I get back to the start, it's almost dry. Quick, get that sentence out. But anyway, I make it work. So I was trying really hard to line that green paper up, and then I realized I don't need to, because I can trim off any bits that stick out if I dislike, because it's going to be covered, silly Billy. And then I started fiddling around with all the little points that hadn't quite stuck down, and then remembered I didn't need to do that either, because I want to smoosh the paint over it and the paint will help hold it down. So just going to stick the middle in, and I didn't try too hard to make this absolutely perfect in line or anything like that, because the love hearts aren't in a perfect line, but I did try and make it relatively even in the center, and so that the hearts are at least going in the correct direction, and then just left it at that. So then I'm going to get my paints. I'm using Kaisercraft paints, acrylic paints, in just a grass green and a white, and I've just got a makeup sponge there to dab it on. I did pull out the darker green as well, but I'm not 100% sure yet if I'm going to use it. I've just pulled it out just to see. I realised once I got started that this green wasn't exactly the colour I wanted, but these were literally the only two greens that I had. And I probably could have mixed one, but anyway, moving on. Because the green that I put as the background paper had a really nice similar tone to the navy, whereas this one is a lot brighter. And I kind of kept going with it because I thought the Happiness Collection, the other bits and bobs from the Happiness Collection, are quite bright. So I'm like, oh, well, it might be okay, it might work. So I sponge all the way around. And again, I ended up doing a lot more sponging than I thought I was going to as well. I thought I was originally just going to kind of blur the edges of the Love Heart paper so it didn't look so stark. But I kind of just got a little bit carried away. And then I thought maybe it needs a little bit of darkening to sort of tie in that navy a bit more. So I just wanted to mix a few white and green splotches of this darker green and just put those around. I'm not too concerned with how it's looking at the moment because I know that the wreath that I've cut, the floral wreath that I've cut, is quite big. So it's going to take up, it's going to cover quite a chunk of that once I get that done. So I'm happy just sort of rolling with it at the moment and seeing how it turns out. So once I do that, I pop it aside to dry and I move on to backing my floral wreath. Now, as I said, I'm literally sitting over a heating duct, so it really dries in no time at all. But yeah, I didn't like those random bits I just put on, so I'm just smudging those in a bit more. But yeah, so popping that aside, cleaning up my space, having a look. Yep, that looks good. Let's get backing. So I decided to pull a whole bunch of Project Life cards to use for backing the cut file. They're mostly Amy Tangerine, Better Together, but they're not all of that. Some of them are other things as well. I just kind of pulled colours that went with the Happiness Collection, the purple, the pink, the tealy colour. They're not quite as bold and as striking as the Happiness Collection, but they're the best that I had in the Project Life cards. I could have used those matte cards that you can see there underneath the purple Project Life cards, but I decided I wanted the Project Life cards because they've got a pattern in them, whereas the matte cards are all just a flat straight colour, and I kind of like the idea of having, spots or flowers or stripes or what have you happening. So I do not keep this much more of this in. This was just to show you how I tackled this cut file. Basically, I put glue on the back, as you do, and then I put a chunk of paper across a section, and then I would let it dry, and then I would cut it out with my scissors. Now, sometimes I would do 3 or 4 sections at a time. I think after a little while I started just going through and doing all of the leaves all the way around the cut file. Other times I'd sort of creep my way a flower at a time around the circle. Kind of varied depending on how easy it was to get in there and cover it up. Some took a lot of fiddling and some were like whole pieces all to themselves, so it was much easier to cover those big ones first. I hope that made a little bit of sense and you can kind of see what I'm doing. Anywho, I'm going to skip forward now to show you, I think I show you the finished cut file. If I don't show you that, I'm skipping forward to show you something different because I don't think this is very good cameraing. You can't really see what's happening, and I think it'd be better to get back into the layout. So I'm about to bring you back to my backing paper where I did the green paint. I've decided it's way too dark, especially now that I'm looking at those beautiful colours on it. They're much more pastel and much softer than I'd originally thought I was going to do. So I really need to tone this back down. So I'm going to put quite a bit of white, more than really what you see here. I put this layer on and let it dry, and then I actually put a second layer on top of this as well. And I dab the second layer so it takes away some of the streakiness that you can see there. I didn't record that because it's kind of the same thing over again, but you will see in a moment how that turned out and how much lighter it is. I really started to question whether I liked this background and whether I was going to put the wreath onto a completely different background. But in the end, it really has come together. It was just way, way, way too dark for where I was going. So I just had to keep playing and keep pulling it in. I still like the pops of green underneath, and I still like having those really nice dark bits of green coming through, but it was still just a bit too dark, so just tone it down. So then I'm going to show you how I backed my photo. These flowers. So all I've done is just stick down the very, very center, so you can see the petals are all up, and then I'm going to cut around them, which you can see them there, by hand, just roughly around the white outline. And so that gives the dimension I'm after, to have them sort of popping off the page. So I've backed my photo with just white all the way around, and now I'm using all the bits and bobs of my Project Life cards, all the leftover scrappy bits, to add some coloured layers behind my photo. And this is just going to tie that photo in with the rest of the wreath and the flowers, because they're literally all the same colours, and so that's just going to look super cute to have that same feel around the photo and around the flowers. I didn't like the curved edges though, because the photo itself has got crisp square corners, so I am just squaring up that rounded corner so that it all kind of ties in a bit better. Sometimes I use the rounded corner, but I'd probably round the corner on my photo as well, and I haven't done that this time. So yeah, just showing you the random bits of paper or bits of card that I'm using to back this photo, because you don't need, perfectly shaped scraps for everything. I probably wouldn't have kept those scraps, having said that, if I didn't use them to back my photos, because I've got 5 million Project Life cards and I just need to start using them. But yeah, if you can use them straight away, that is a nice way to use them up. And then I'm going to just back the whole, those have all obviously been backed a little higgledy-piggledy to give a cool layered effect, and then I'm just going to back the whole entire piece in that purple colour, just to finish it off as a nice even square or rectangle. And I'm going to use my little Fiskars guillotine for that, which I love, by the way. Love it. And then it will be time to get everything going down, sticking down. And you will see also in just a second, when I bring my pattern paper back, how much lighter the page has gotten with the second coat of the white paint. So what else can I tell you? This photo was taken by me being silly for our 2,000 subscriber giveaway. I just really liked that filter, and I thought it matched really well with the Coco Vanilla Studios collection colours that are underneath my head. And then I thought how cute it was, or concept of lying inside your scrapbook supplies when you're a crazy addicted to scrapping scrapbooker. So this is the idea of what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the wreath down on there, and then I'm going to fill in a lot of those extra spaces that have been made by the green and white paint from cutting out the other beautiful floral. I'm going to fill those in with the gorgeous flowers and the bits of sprig leaves that came in the Pick a Posy cut file. And I'm going to use a great big mixture of glue and foam tape, and it's just going to vary. So the whole wreath will not be stuck up on foam tape, but the whole wreath will also not be stuck down on glue. It's just going to be some bits up, some bits down. It'll just depend where the layers are and what's going on top and what's going under and where we are. No real rhyme or reason to it, just how it fits. Sorry if my voice sounds a little bit whispery. My whole entire house is asleep at the moment except me. And I really don't want the boys to wake up. So I am trying to be quiet while I do this. So sorry if I sound a little bit funny. I find it really hard to have time to do voiceovers. So it's not that late at night here, but it's late enough that everyone is asleep. What is it? It's about 9:30. So this process is a little bit slow going because I am indecisive. I've got the added problem here with my OCD of trying to trying to separate colours. I don't want to put like too many of the exact same colours together, and then I also want to not have too many of the exact same flowers together. And I'm being a bit of a perfectionist because that's what I do. And so I probably sent pictures of this layout a lot to my sister. I think I even rang her. I'm like, no, this is just not going to work. Do I just axe it completely? This is a disaster. I don't like it. I had this great idea in my head and it's just not working. I actually had this conversation a lot lately with people about that concept where you get really disappointed from a layout because you have the idea in your head of how it's going to look and it just doesn't come together the way you thought it would. And in the end, I was like, right, I'm just going to roll with it. I can't, I'm not redoing it now. I've just done so much with it. I'm just going to keep powering on. This is me trying to work out if I can get rid of some of the things that are causing shadow, and I can't work out what they are. So I am also just going to roll with the sun and with the shadow. I'm so sorry that cameraing is awful, but I can't put my blind down because it's really, really noisy. And Tom is asleep and I don't want to wake him. So sorry about the lighting. Hopefully you can bear with it. Anyway, so we were just having this conversation that it tends to be our own, imagined ideas, our own perspective that is the thing that upsets us in the end. If you show this layout to someone else, they're like, oh my God, I love it. It's amazing. I think it's my favorite one you've ever done. And you sit there going, really? Oh my God, I hated this. It is not how I thought it would look at all. In this case, it's not quite that extreme, but that's what we were talking about. How often, the way you imagine things are going to turn out can really hinder your creativity if it's not going to plan, or if it's not quite, you think red and blue looks amazing together in your idea, and then you put those red and blue things down on the paper and you're like, no, that doesn't work at all. And it's just that first initial, that's really disappointing. I really thought that red and blue was going to be great. I hope you understand what I'm talking about and agree with what I'm talking about, because I'm being a bit silly otherwise. I wasn't sure when I was planning this if I was going to use those little roses. They're cute, and I banked them on paper just in case, but I just didn't know if they went with the rest of the, the daisies and the... I don't know what else those flowers are. I am so sorry. Yawning again. I seem to yawn in all of my voiceovers. Hopefully you can forgive me. I'd love to blame my young children, but it's not really their fault anymore. But I decided that the roses worked really well for filling some of those quite larger gaps. You could hide them in underneath as opposed to them needing to stick out and be dimensional. So that was definitely working. So can you see now how it's starting to come together? Because I bet there were a few of you out there that was a little bit like me at the start, thinking, I'm not sure about this, Jess. What are you doing? But I hope you can start to see how by by covering up 99% of that green paint in the background, it's really starting to come together all right. It's getting there. It's looking all right. And you should see in the photos at the end how awesome it really did turn out. Like, when it's completely done, and I've got the little I put some little pearls on it, which I'll show you in a minute, and some splatters, and yeah, it really turns out really cool. So hopefully you hang around to the end or skip to the end and see the photos, because yeah, it actually turned out much better than I thought it was going to for a while there. So much closer to the idea I had in my head. Funny. I'm not going to use those little bell type flowers. I just couldn't get those to work. I didn't even try, to be honest. I did try off camera and they were like, nah, they're not right. So they don't make the cut. I really want something to fill that space, but none of the flowers worked underneath, so I just decided to match the little ball berry things and put those in. So in the wreath, I backed everything. Every little thing that had a hole got backed by paper. But in the flowers, like the extra things that I'm adding, all the sprigs of leaves and things, I didn't back those at all. So those extra berries that I just added under there, they're not got any back, so they've got an empty hole, whereas the ones that were connected to the wreath do have a hole. And then also with the flowers, I just backed those in one colour. I didn't change the inside circle like I did with the wreath, mostly just to, like, I did that way on purpose, just to sort of, I don't know, identify the difference between the two different types of flowers, I suppose, that are in it. Like, there's sort of the dimensional type flowers, and then there's the wreath flowers. I'm not really sure, but it was definitely a conscious decision to do it that way. I could have easily put a circle of a different colour in the middle of the flowers, but yeah, I just didn't want to. Just covering my photo, because after all of this, I did not want to get Heidi Shine on my photo. So splashing some gold just all amongst the beautiful flowers there, going around in the circle. It's actually really hard to see it. It's just a really light touching of gold that just sort of adds a little bit of sparkle and shine to it. Then I ummed and ahed about a title. I actually almost left a title off. That's why I put the Heidi Shine on when I did. I actually thought, it doesn't need a title. There's a lot going on here. But then the more I thought about it, the more I wanted one, because I pretty much put a title on everything, all of my layouts. So I just went and got these teensy tiny Paige Evans thickers that really won't draw your attention away. They won't steal the thunder of what's going on. And I think they're supposed to be rose gold, but they're very almost white. They're just a tiny sheen to them. So I just sort of hid that title right down the bottom there. I was going to put it sort of more centered in the middle of the layout, but I actually like the idea of it almost not being there. It's not a highlight. It's not the important part of what's happening in this. This is all about the flowers and about the photo. And it just says, this is me, because scrapbooking, selfie, it is me. So I then decided I wanted to put some little pearls, just scatter those around. They're just tiny, tiny little pearls. And they came on a string or joined together. So I just cut those to separate them to make life a bit easier. And I'm just putting those pretty much anywhere I want, all the way around the circle. Down on the page though. So not up on the flowers, down on the original pattern page. And yeah, just everywhere. You can see there's no real thought going into it. Just popping them around, using the row, popping them around. And then we are done. So I'll bring this for a close-up and you'll be able to see just how much dimension there is going on in this layout. It is crazy. And then if you hang out for the photos that are coming up in just a second, you'll be able to see that a little bit more as well. And I'm really happy with the way this turned out. It actually looks really, really cool. Busy, but in a good way, I think. So you can see there how with different lighting, sorry about that, it really picks up the colors, and it just looks gorgeous. So I'm really, really happy with it. So I hope you like it. I hope it'll inspire you to jump on over to the Etsy shop and pick up a couple of Virginia's cut files. Thanks everyone, and I will talk to you again next time. Bye.